Hello, everybody, and welcome to another Menopause in on Monday in March with my friend Angela, who is, if you have not yet seen recordings 1 and 2, please connect with the person who invited you to, or share this video with you so that you can learn more about the first parts of this beautiful and amazing conversation. And Angela, I just want to share here quickly the feedback that I have received so far on these talks has been incredible. So I know that we're making a difference in helping to shed some light on what can feel like a very overwhelming and confusing time in a woman's life. It's interesting how we go through the phase of menopause, and honestly, as somebody who's post-menopause right now, it can feel confusing and overwhelming, like what is going on in my body. So I just want to thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to share with us and educate us on what's really happening and what we can do. And I think it's really important. Now, I'm not going to do your intro because I will not do it justice. I would love if you can give everybody a little blurb about, who you are, what you do before we dive into tonight's topic, which is all about midlife, menopause, and the modern woman. So I'm excited about this one. But so, yeah, please, Angela, share a little bit about you before we dive in.
Thank you. Super happy to be here and share this information. So my name is Angela Warburton. My background is both health sciences and complementary medicine. So my background is in Eastern medicine, traditional Chinese medicine, acupuncture, herbs. I've done a ton of other training. So applied mindfulness. I go deep in nutrition. I've done a lot about looking at the modern woman and the effects of the modern woman from this sort of masculine, feminine side, and so much deep dive into menopause now, and sort of, I call it the science and the soul of menopause. So the whole woman, all of you. And the reason I'm doing this work is because I am a midlife modern woman. And as I approached menopause, I was like, what's going, this story sucks. And I'm like, wait, I refuse to believe that this is like a downhill and this is it. And oh my God, life is over now as I know it. And I have no worth or meaning. And also I was just I know so much about the body, but I started to really like, what is it that I'm feeling? What are these changes? What's supposed to happen and why, and what's not health? Like, what are there things that might be suffering with that I can do something about? So it was my personal journey that has really led my career. And now I'm here to help women to change our story about midlife and menopause. So that's sort of me in a nutshell.
Yeah. Love it. Thank you. And again, the feedback that I've gotten so far is people really enjoy the high quality value that you are sharing with us. So let's dive into tonight.
So midlife, menopause, and the modern woman. So what does that mean? So what's that?
Here's light. We're going to shed some light on what that looks like and what it means.
Well, yeah, because there are very unique things as a modern woman that we're experiencing that aren't typically how things were experienced in the past. And this is what I'm talking about, hundreds and thousands of years. Like we have our society and our culture has sped up unbelievably in the last 20, 30 years, even from, 100 years for sure. And so the effects of technology, of a busy paced life, of women, straddling being a mother, workforce, but just information, like there's just a lot of demands. And so what are the effects? Because in North America, and for sure Western culture, and in particular North America, women have off the charts the worst experiences of menopause than anywhere else in the world. So why is that? And so when we look at a lot of traditional cultures that haven't stepped away a lot, far away from how things were done, or living cultures that actually have a very positive narrative about menopause and what it is, and living a little bit closer to, with seasonal fluctuations, have a better relationship with rest, they fare better. So fewer experiences. Japan didn't even have a word for hot flash until recently. So it's like women who went through menopause didn't get hot flashes. So as our story says, oh, you're going to get hot flashes, you're not going to sleep, it's going to feel terrible. And that's true for many women, but it doesn't have to be. So why is it? So that's really what I want to talk about today. And I'm going to get I'll get specific sort of sciencey, but I'm also going to get more philosophical and pull in some of the traditional medicine, so Eastern medicine. which we talk about yin and yang, but I'm going to talk about it more in this masculine feminine. A lot of people hear, oh, the divine feminine or the masculine. What is that? And every man, every woman, every person, no matter their gender, has this masculine, feminine, these traits. So what do they look like in a healthy expression, and what do they look like in an unhealthy, and how do they balance each other out? Because what we, hopefully this is making sense. You can stop me at
Yeah.
any point if
Yeah.
not. But what we have is a culture that is very focused on what I'd call the distorted masculine and the distorted feminine. And so a culture that says our worth is based on our productivity, how much we do, constant accomplishing, achievement. Rest has turned into a bit of a like 4-letter word in our culture. So people feel incredibly guilty when they go to rest. They feel like, oh my God, I'm lazy, or things are going to collapse, or I can't rest yet. When I get the fill in the blank done, then I'll rest. But that never seems to happen, or we override our rest and we get this sort of second wind. And we talked about this, I think, in week 1, week 2, that what happens when we override this need to rest is our body says, oh, I'm not getting the rest, so I need to keep getting energy. Where am I going to get that? And it will literally pull from our adrenal glands and transfer some of our juicy feminine hormones, estrogen, progesterone, or some of the other non-essential hormones like testosterone, and turn it into cortisol. And so we get this sort of hormonal overdraft that happens when we're operating out of this chronic to-do. So this idea of this masculine and feminine, the distorted masculine is what I call the inner bully, where it's like, you can't stop. What are you doing? It's just like, you're too lazy, or diminishes the feminine side. So you're, feelings, feelings are too much, or your emotions are too much, and don't just sit there. You're going to be late. Like these feelings of being, and this idea of that there's only one winner, kind of like a hierarchy of power or achievement, can be that sort of dominant. Those are signs of the distorted masculine energy. So this out of balance, this can be a very manipulative energy. It's an idea that sort of sets up this idea of competition or comparison. So it's like, oh, if they're succeeding, I'm not. So always feeling like we're less than unless we're winning. I've got to be the top of my game. But how many people can be the top of everything? It's like, there's enough, the idea. So it's kind of feeds into the scarcity mentality. So we're always chasing something.
If I could just interrupt you, because I want to share with you, again, feedback for you. So last week we did talk a lot about rest.
Yeah.
And before we started this call tonight, I shared with you that my husband has been working on the basement, so renovating, which includes my office. So I'll be down there soon and out of my daughter's room. But honestly, like around the clock. So it was, so he works construction, and then he was doing physical work, and we're talking like putting floorboards down. Like when he gets up, he looks like a pretzel. So I said to him, listen, you need to get your rest. Like you need to. And so he was actually going to bed early, Angela. Like I was like, early. She just talked about this. Like, this is the thing you need most. I know you want to stay up. I know it doesn't feel like it's a big deal, but it actually will. And you know what? He was so diligent because of this talk last week. I was like, okay, we just talked about rest. I need you to just go to bed, or when you feel tired, you need to get to bed. And he did. And I'm going to tell you, he had such a productive week. So like long hours at work, and then came home and continued the work. So it's just amazing how we think, like you said, like, well, if I step back, if I rest, then I'm gonna, be like, I'm not gonna be as far ahead. The truth is that you're actually further ahead because of. So there you go. Sorry, I just wanted to share that.
I love it. I know, I love it. And I think it's that, it's too early to go to bed, or I can't go to bed, but if we energy in and energy out, and we just like, we can't breathe out all the time. We need to breathe in, and it's both extremes. It's like the balance of both that's essential. It's so brilliant. I love it, because that's the thing when we rest it. So often people think like, oh, everything I've worked so hard towards is going to crumble. And it's not true. We're going to be actually fill back up and have even more to give, whether it be to our family or to our friends, to ourselves. And women have been, this is part of the distorted feminine side of things. We've been taught to give to others. And that's when we take care of others, that's our value or our worth. And that, self-care is some people have this selfish, or I'll get to me later. And what happens, we go into this like energetic, emotional, hormonal overdraft, and we're exhausted. And so that can really lead to some of the imbalances that we see around midlife and menopause when this is very energetic we're talking about, but it shows up, in that hormonal cascade and how we feel, our ability to have deep, restful sleep, to show up and be there for others. A lot of women talk about the plummeting libido at midlife. And that often in Chinese medicine, we look at the patterns when we're absolutely like the bank is dry, like well is dry. That's because we've given it all away to other things to get stuff done in the day, or we're just so stressed because we're overriding this, like our need for rest, or the feminine, the real healthy feminine. And again, this is a balance, and I'm going to talk about things that, take it all with a grain of salt, but it's all important. But it's so much about pleasure. And pleasure isn't necessarily a sexual thing, though it can be, but pleasure as in savoring moments, things that make you feel, oh, that's just beautiful. Or that's, when I have a thing for tea. So like a steaming cup of tea that smells so great, or feeling or smelling food that's cooking. It's just like savoring those moments that create that spaciousness. That's part of letting ourselves receive, which is ultimately the feminine or the yin. It's the receiving, and that masculine, healthy masculine is the action. It's like the how do I say this? Like the idea, the inspiration, we'd say, is the feminine, and then the action plan is the masculine side. They need both. What we tend to do in our world is like, take action, figure out why later. Like make these plans, or force, like we're what's our 5-year plan, but we don't even know how to listen to the next right thing that we want to do sometimes. So we're so over structured, and we're looking for this doing side versus we say the stopping, listening. This is such a big part for women at midlife, is like listening to that inner voice, because it is this really unique culmination of wisdom, experience. We know ourselves, we know what we like, and we know what we don't like. And because menopause is this portal that really, it's like a funnel. It's like putting us through this funnel to say, only so much is going to come out on the other side. You sure as shit want it to be the stuff you want to do, versus all the things that you've been carrying that maybe aren't yours, or don't feel good, or aren't in alignment anymore. And so we've lived at a certain amount that we know ourselves. And so with menopause and going through this portal, some of the requirements, if you will, during this menopause transition is stillness, is quiet, is shutting the door. Just, I'll be back in 20 minutes, everyone. Don't come knocking. And then just turning off the stimulation, because we've got so much stimulation from our phones to, our computers to Netflix, binge watch, whatever it is. Shut it down, and just, as one of my clients said, like staring out the window and looking at the birds feels like the most important things to me sometimes, but she was having such a hard time justifying it. But that's where we allow what is in to bubble out, so that we can hear, this is what I want to do. This is what I'm interested in. This is the stuff that is no longer interesting. And then let it go.
Right. So I love what you just said, actually. So it's sacred moments through your day that is like a cup of tea, or maybe it's just, taking a moment, shutting the door, literally sitting on your couch and just doing nothing, like nothing to distract you. So and as you were sharing before, you shared that, all that, does it have to look like that? And I'm guessing the answer is that it is stillness, it is quietness.
Yeah, and that can look different for everyone, but it's like this isn't what there's a saying I love, women aren't taught, we awaken. And
Mm,
it's an inside out job. Menopause, your unique vision, it's an inside out job. And we have a very outside in world. I'm going to tell you what you need to do. Here's the top 5 steps for this, how to figure out your thing. And we're
right.
inundated with information. We can't do it that way. Menopause says go in. It's your life,
Yeah.
my life. What's most interesting to each woman is going to be so unique.
I
And
love
so
that.
it's that we can only it's like that. There's I think I have it on my wall. There's a voice that doesn't use words, listen. And
Mm,
it's that deep, still voice within that can only come when we get quiet. And get quiet is like, I'm a fan of a 15-minute restorative yoga pose, like legs up the wall. Here we go. Like, I'm just going to lie here and replenish. Walks in nature, being in nature, sitting in nature. It can look different for everyone, but the key is that it's not multitasking, it's not doing something for someone else, it's not taking information in. And that can be really uncomfortable sometimes for
yeah.
people.
Well, so yeah, for sure. I think, to be honest, I feel like I do a pretty good job of that. Like this
You're
morning, I had
great.
a big meeting, and it was in about an hour drive each way. When I got home, I sat on the couch, and I literally just sat on the couch, and I just like, I had my dogs by me, so they were very therapeutic. And but I don't think we live in a world that um that allows that for a lot of women, because because I mean, I feel like it's a luxury, to be honest with you, to be able to tap out like
That's part of the modern narrative, right? Oh, it's a luxury. It is an excess. It is something that when I've done everything else, I can have this luxury to just be. And that's what I'm here to say. It's
right,
not actually, it's essential because
right.
there's so many things that it does. It resets our nervous system. Our body goes into that parasympathetic. You get home to yourself. But I think the common narrative, it is a luxury. I don't have time for that.
So,
Doesn't
but
that
then
sound nice?
what do you say to women who say that I don't have time for that then? Because I mean,
Yeah,
I know that I would hear that,
for
I would
sure.
hear that with just with fitness. I don't have time to work out. I didn't get my workout in today.
Yeah.
So, and you know what, honestly, when I hear these busy moms and, they got up with the kids and it's been like a rat race until the kids go to bed, by the time the kids go to bed, they're like silly putty on the couch going, what happened today?
And
So
just
it's
want to like
genuine, right? Like
have
it's been,
time. Yeah.
yeah, like it's really genuine. It's not,
Yeah.
it's so I hear you. It shouldn't be that it's this, modern day, a diagnosis,
Absolutely.
but for like, I remember like when it was I was turned inside out, upside down, and that was the end of my day, right? So
Yeah.
how do you help those women to stop and be? And
Yeah, I know there's a lot there, and by no means am I saying, "Oh, this is easy, just go about it," because this is part of the distortions of our culture. And
right.
I think kids are over programmed. I have one mom recently, and she said, I feel kind of badly, but I'm picking things that are both good for me and for my child. Like, I'm not
Mhm.
running around and I'm going to pick 1 or 2 things for her that's going to be good for her, but then she's fine to like play on her own. There's so much research that kids need to be bored just to build that sort of brain in a different way. So like watching where you're like, that doing for everyone else. And I have so many women that will stay up so late just to get some time on their own when everyone's asleep. So I'm saying 10 minutes,
Yeah.
starting with 10 minutes when it feels completely like, oh my God, I don't know how I'm going to do this. You have 10 minutes. I guarantee you the dishes can wait, the laundry can wait. Like kids just say, I'm going up here. And it's modeling. That's the
Yeah.
other thing. It's modeling for the kids, because I don't think anyone wants their kids to be overriding their need to, and giving to not paying attention to themselves. So it's like modeling for them too. And I'm sure there'll be flack and some
No,
people will
I
say,
love
but
it. You're right though.
just
No,
I
no.
mean, starting with 10 minutes, close the door,
Yeah.
mom will be back in a bit or whatever it is. I've got so much to do always, but I make time
Yeah.
twice a day, meditate, like I sit and do my thing. I call it the wall stare. Like I think what you did on your couch today, sometimes I'm just like, I need to, it's like, I use this little example sometimes, but it's like this snow globe, right? Like kind of, and it's just like, that's my life, some like life. And then it's when we get still, everything settles. And so that's kind of what those minutes. So start with 10 minutes. If you can expand it to 15 on, booking some time off for a little longer, whatever you can do.
Mhm.
And it probably will be uncomfortable at
Mhm.
first.
Mhm.
Emotions may come up.
Mhm.
There's a lot of things that can, it's almost like we need to, it's like dejunking our inner worlds. And so what needs to come out will come out, but
Mhm.
it's also where the wisdom comes, where that being able to hear that stop, that
Mhm.
small, quiet, still voice inside.
Mhm.
And that particularly for midlife, that's a guidepost. That's giving you really solid information about what life wants
Mhm.
from, what, because the thing with that voice inside is that it's, when you listen, it's going to be the thing that you're most interested in, you're most gifted at, that life is going to support you in. It will probably have things like, I couldn't do that. Who am I to do that? I know nothing about that. How that's too complicated. The inner critic, which is the distorted
Right.
masculine side, will come in. It's like, not right now. There's
Right.
lots of time for that later. But just, it's like a little seedling, letting it grow and listening. Yeah.
So good. This is gold. This is gold. And actually, if you are listening to this and you're thinking, is she crazy? I don't got 2 minutes. Then I want to bring it in. So for Liana, she dances. So that's what she does for her energy out. But if you're here listening and you're thinking like, I just don't have 10, honestly, we'll take 2 or 5. Just start there. Just start with, because I think what Angela's talking about is just allow yourself to feel that, because if you've been away from it for so long, it actually will feel uncomfortable. It,
Well, totally. And I mean, most people have, I don't know, have you ever binge watched Netflix, like on a series? Like, it's a way we kind of check out.
yeah.
It's like, okay, before that, just take 10 minutes, 15 minutes. And because we're wanting to be like, we're wanting to feel good inside, but the constant, that's one of the distorted feminine. We've talked about the masculine, but the distorted feminine, because there's healthy feminine where we're coming back to more that rest, more that intuition, honoring feelings, and for as guideposts as well. But the distorted feminine never feels like enough. So
Mm,
we're constantly trying to fill up. If I take this course, if I look like this, if I have this, if my house looks like this, if I have this career, when I make this much money, when the kids are in, supported in this, then I'll feel enough. And that will never happen from an external. And there's a difference. I was listening to something the other day about, there's a difference between self-confidence. We can feel confident in something, but that self-worth and
mm,
that feeling like enough is something completely different. And that's when inherently we just are enough, but that's really that divine feminine energy that's sourced from within is where that is, I want to say birthed from, but where that lives a little bit more. Yeah.
I love that.
Otherwise, we're like, and we have a culture. This is the other thing you see so much with midlife and aging is it's the culture that says you need to look young, you need to have this size, your body needs to look this way. And that, leads to a lot of body dysmorphia, chronic dieting, cosmetic surgeries, because I'm fine for what people do, whatever you want to do. But if you're doing it because you don't feel like you're enough
Mm,
in chronically chasing it, that's where I see the distortions.
right.
And so just tapping back into that sense of enoughness. And to me, when a woman's living from this place, she's radiant.
Mhm.
She is on fire. Like this very, if you've ever seen, I've seen women in their 50s, 60s, 70s that have that twinkle in their eye that just, they have wrinkles and stuff. They might look 60 or
Mhm.
70, but boy, do they look good.
Right.
And boy, are they magnetic. And boy, do I want to be around them because they're interesting and they know themselves and there's that fire, especially if they're on purpose and they know they're living the life that's authentic to them.
Well, and it's funny. So I have a walking group that I organize, and we go out a couple of times a week. But this was a conversation last week about how, when you think about we celebrate our daughters when they hit puberty. She's a woman now, and it's this big
Yes.
party or whatever, right? And then when we hit menopause, it's like doom and gloom, like, oh, your life is over. You better, and it's like, no, like, this is, to be honest, I I might not understand every part of this menopause journey that I'm on. And I have no complaints, honestly. Like I just, I get, hot flashes on occasion, no big deal. They're pretty intense sometimes, no big deal. Um but I'm like amazed at, you know, how incredible the female body is, that like all this is happening. And I think,
Mhm.
I feel like it is a celebration, quite frankly, to be going through menopause, and just, you know, a reminder of the power of our body. It's like, it's amazing. Like, it really is amazing how, like,
Yeah.
the female body, right? And why it's understudied, I don't know. But I want to go back to something you said a little while ago, which is, we live in a world where we're constantly being told what to do.
Mm.
Oh my, can I tell you, I'm so tired of that in my feed. Like, I'm so tired of, like, you need this or you need, and I'm like, um, it's especially around menopause, and it's probably just me going, okay, you know what, like, can we just, like, honor, you know, each of our own journey, and, you know, there might be similarities, or, you know, our overlaps, but, you know, it's such a beautiful journey for each of us, that, you know, it's not going to look the same for every woman, you know. There's, it's like there's just varying degrees of each, you know, little thing that happens. And so I feel like I'm kind of over the whole, like, it almost makes me tired of talking about menopause, to be honest with you.
I agree. There's so much. Well, I think you've got now an industry that's caught on that there's a lot of money to be made. So we get a lot of the pathologizing of menopause. So this is the, you know, fix this and fix that, and here, have this supplement for
Mhm,
that. And supplements can be really helpful
mhm,
sometimes, but now we were just like, oh, you, in order to manage menopause, you have to have X, like this
mhm,
thing. And I agree. It's a very dangerous. And women can spend a lot of money but not really understand. And that's certainly what the work that I do is, here's the container that is menopause. Now, how do we apply it to your life? How do you learn and to read the signs? How, like, emotions, symptoms, they're guideposts. Your
right.
body is, like you said, it's so wise. And
Mhm,
so everything that you're feeling is trying to get your attention.
mhm,
And so it's that's how Chinese medicine works. The body is guiding you through. Every symptom means something. Dry eyes, wake up at 3 in the morning, hang nails, like, do you get cramps? Do you sigh a lot? Like, everything has a reason. And so we're putting these symptoms into pattern. There's patterns. And then when you treat the pattern. So my job is, what I see is, how do you learn what your body is saying, what your emotions are saying? If you're really intolerant, this is one of the things that I came across when my transition, I owned a clinic, multidisciplinary clinic, great people, loved it. When I birthed it, I loved it. And all of a sudden I was like, you want what from me? I was like, like, I was getting so irritated and so, like, resentful of people asking. And I'm like, oh, I don't think I want to do this anymore.
mhm,
And so with just even honoring that myself, I'm like, oh, okay, that's why. No one's doing anything wrong. They're doing the same things they always did. Like, they have every right to ask me for something as an owner of a business.
mhm,
And so then it was like, okay, I need to transition. And so then I ended up finding someone who was really ready to own a clinic, and I sold the clinic. And then I changed my practice because that's what was calling forth in me. And versus, like, I think someone had been talking to me like, oh, you can scale and you can have multiple locations. And I could just feel my body going, oh.
right,
And that's where we listen. Like, our body
right.
is going to tell us. This is one of my favorite things, if I can just share this, like,
Yeah.
tools to help women just with these micro nourishments, like these little ways we can nourish ourselves on the day to day. And I promise you, if you listen and you take action, you will have more energy, you will feel more aligned, your day will flow a lot better, more stuff will happen, but you won't be, like, wrung out the same way.
Mhm,
So, and it takes a little work sometimes to listen to this, but it's like, hand on heart, this is what I do, but just moment to moment, um, what is the most loving thing that I could do for myself right now? Like, what is it that I really want to do? And listen and take action. And this, for me, I could feel like, a lot of times if I'm sitting at my desk, I've got lots to do and I'm working, and all of a sudden I'm like feeling like my insides are like doing this. And I'm like, whoa, whoa,
mhm,
whoa, what do I want to do? And I'm like, oh, I got to go for a walk. And I'll get up and I'll go for a walk. Or I would go just lie down and look at the trees for 10 minutes. And I could just feel, as soon as I did that, my body will just soften,
'Cause you're
fill
on.
up, and then inevitably I'll get the idea for the article I was writing, or I'll get the thing, or I'll all of a sudden like, oh, ready to go. And I'll go back to it, and it happens faster, more efficiently. So just those ways of listening, or listening to, if you're getting stomach aches, if you're getting palpitations, like just listening, whoa, what's going on? Because those are all those little guideposts from the
Yeah.
body.
And I
Yeah.
think, I honestly, I think a lot of us, I'll say us, I think we're all guilty to some degree, is we ignore those signs and symptoms.
We override them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and life's just busy and we get caught up. So it's but that's that's a great takeaway. If anybody's taking notes listening to this, like just write that one down, because that's a great action step that you can take to, like, for me, whenever I feel it's like it's heavy, I always go, what's the elephant on my back? It's good,
Mm.
Anna. Like, I'm really enjoying this conversation. So I always think, what's the elephant on my back? And then once I identify, like, oh, you know what? I need to write that newsletter, or I need to call that woman back, or right. But what's the pressing matter that's causing the stress or whatever? And
Yeah.
identifying it. And I think sometimes, and it could be like, you had to get the laundry done or something, whatever the pressing matter is. And maybe it's like, you know what, you got to get to bed early. Like I need.
Yeah, or like get a glass of water. I'm thirsty. I've got how many women like I gotta pee. One more thing and I'll pee. Go pee. Go pee.
Right.
Just go, like get up and go do what those little
Yeah.
things, because those body and it's a way. We have a term in Chinese medicine called yangshen, which means self-nourishment, and it's like the art of self-nourishment. And it's these little, I call them the drops in the buckets, but the way that we honor moment to moment the little things that we need. And when we do that, we're showing ourselves we matter.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we're saying, I don't matter, everything else matters, like instead of me, like, and so then how to just bring yourself back into the mix. And when you do that, and I promise, like when we fill up from the inside, we have way more to give to others. We're way more present with our family. Our work gets done easier. It's a spiral in such a good way. But this distortion of saying, oh my God, you got to keep going, just push through is what's causing, like, not only is it uncomfortable, it's a distortion of how that ebb and flow of the masculine, feminine, the yin and the yang, the doing and resting, they all are the same thing. But it's for menopause, it is a root cause of so many of the imbalances and discomfort that women are feeling, because we're going into that overdraft
Right.
and sacrificing the hormonal balance
Mhm.
just to get stuff done or to not listen.
So let's talk a little bit about um, the nervous system and adrenal health, because I know.
Mm, right. So if we think of the nervous system, I mean, there's a lot to it. So I'm going to just
Yeah,
sort of
I know. Yeah.
simplify it. But if you think of we have the parasympathetic, which is the rest and digest. That is the state when our body's relaxed, calm. We're going to digest our food. When we sleep well, we're able to repair tissue. That's reproductive health. That all has to do with that parasympathetic. The sympathetic is the fight or flight. And the sympathetic it's healthy to go in and out of these, but the key is going in and out.
Right.
Something happens, we're stressed, our body will that's where if we have operating energy like cortisol or adrenaline, it's like we get away from something, it gives us that burst of energy. You're performing, you're going on and to do a talk, you're going to get that the nervous energy, and then you talk and then it comes down.
Right.
And then you go back into that parasympathetic state. We operate when we're chronically pushing or overriding our need to rest, or the body, even though we've evolved a lot, our whole brain and everything has not evolved that much. So our body doesn't know the difference between a
Right.
really aggressive war show on TV to being super stressed, opening up our emails. And so we tend to be being in traffic, it gets us stressed out, news, stressed out. So our body is going into and living in this sympathetic nervous system, sort of in that state, fight or flight all the time. And when we're in that state, we just don't have the resources to rest, to replenish. Someone told me, this just popped into my mind, but So we want to stay often up to date on what's going on in the world, but the news can be really quite triggering and traumatizing. Someone was telling me there's a kids station, I think it's NBC or something has it, and they have a story about world events, but they have like two good stories and positive stories for every like this very more a lot more balanced. It's like, why are we not doing that for adult news or for the other news? But things that, how do you consume media? Is it something that it's a like they say push or pull?
I feel like
Or
it's like I feel like it's like a bag of Doritos.
how so?
It's conditioned to make you want more, and then next thing you know, you're
Yeah.
like neck deep in it all. So I mean,
Yeah.
I think it's, look, if you really needed to know about it, someone's going to tell you. But
Yeah.
the news is it's not, I mean, it's just not even quality information. And so
100%. So
yeah.
like it's like that detoxing from things that are that giving you
Yeah.
that dopamine hit or that stress. So what are the things that cause you to go into that fight or flight state? So just panicking, not feeling good, feeling overwhelmed, and just cultivating the things that
Right.
I love simple things like taking those 10 minutes to yourself, the
Mhm.
2x breath, we call it. So breathing in whatever, breathe in for 2, breathe out for 4.
Mhm.
That reminds your nervous system that you're relaxed.
Mhm.
Looking at nature, being in around nature is really food that's not going to stress out your system. So, watching any kind of stimulants, making sure your body has the building blocks. That's why I love Juice Plus, because it's a building blocks of the minerals, the foods, the vitamins that come from whole foods that allow your system to operate in a really healthy way. So those little micro drops of
Mhm.
things that are going to remind your body constantly, it's okay, we're safe. And
Well,
so, yeah.
yeah, and even that actually, with Juice Plus, I feel like a big part for me is just I really think of it as a nutritional seatbelt. So I don't
Hmm.
have to stress about, I mean, anything else that I have in my day, it always feels so complimentary. So I feel for me, the Juice Plus is just peace of mind. But an action that I take now, I run a large business, and so Sunday night game plan is how I start my week off. Sunday night game plan. And that's not just for my business, but it's actually for my life, right? So like on Sunday nights, I look and go, okay, so what is happening this week? Like who's where, like, and it's that preparedness, right? So because, like today I knew that I was going to be out. I knew that it was going to be a long drive both ways. And I knew that I was going to be on in, presentation mode. So when I got back, I made sure that I didn't line myself up with a meeting right after, because I knew that I was going to need to have some time to decompress. So again, I think going into your week is, planning, what's the saying, failing to plan is planning to fail,
Mm, hmm.
right?
Hmm.
So if you're somebody who's like, well, I just don't even know where to start, honestly, start with a Sunday night game plan. It's not just a work thing. It's a person, like just look at your, I live by my agenda. I'm like a passion planner girl. Like this thing is my life. And so, plan your week out, know where you're going, know where you have to be, that way you can time block, space for yourself and your own self-care.
I think that's so smart because it's so often like I find this opening up my email first thing in the morning puts me into reaction mode versus what are the things that I need to do? Or I start my day and I've done a walk outside, I've done my meditation, I've done something that filled me up before I even touch
Yeah.
anything computer or phone related. That's something I've had to learn over time, but I just feel better. And I've started my day with, I'm feeding myself good things. I mean, food wise, I eat really well. And if I don't, I feel it. So what are, spending time, who do I want to spend time with? All those things. It's like that old, there was that email that went around with that, a jar and you had rocks, pebbles,
Yeah.
and then water. And if you put water in, you can't put anything else or sand in. But if you put the big rocks first, which are the
That's right.
most important thing,
Yeah.
everything else can get filled in
Yeah.
around it. So
And
yeah,
you know
yeah.
what? So my mornings, I actually, my eldest doesn't live at home anymore. So when I pick up my phone in the morning, it's literally just to see if there's a text from her. I don't open up Facebook. I don't open up, I do nothing. I read in the morning, affirmations, breathing. I shower like before I even open all that up. And that's such a small thing, but with a huge impact, because you're
Agreed.
right, the moment you open all that up, it's like you're getting
Yeah.
hammered with information and your mind is like, and then just talk about like elevating your cortisol immediately, and you're like running before the doors even open. So if you're somebody who struggles with that, try just pausing in the morning to do some self-care. And so again, I read scripture, I journal, I say affirmations, I do my breathing exercises, and then I take my dogs for a walk. My Facebook isn't even open at that time yet. So I do all those things first, right? So if you're somebody and you're like, okay, I need to, shift that, just that's another really good thing to know. Like, just try to give yourself some time in the morning to have for you, even if it's just the 10 breaths. Like, if you're like, okay, I can't do like all that, just start with 10 breaths in the morning, just to sit there by yourself. And, we don't often take deep breaths in our day. We're very
Yeah.
shallow breathers, right? And so
Yeah.
even before you get out of bed.
I know there's a lot of moms. I personally love early morning. At that time, it feels like very quiet. Not a lot of people are up. And I know some people will get up that much earlier with their family and take time just in the silence and the stillness for them,
Right.
not doing other things, but just being. So that's another way. I agree completely. Just even start, yeah, like you said, start with one thing.
So, okay, now I'm going to ask you something here, because now I've had this conversation with a friend of mine. And, so again, I'm going to be 53. I'm postmenopausal. She is as well. And there, I feel like I go through phases where I'm, waking up with the sun and, rocking my mornings. And then other times my body is like, hold on, I need a break from that. Please get extra sleep. And I honestly, I honor it. Like, I know when my body is needing that more. I love getting up early, but there are some, I feel like it's a phase. It happens like, for a week or two. But if I don't respect that, my body's gonna kick me in the ass. Right.
Yeah, it's huge. We tend to have we have a 24-hour day cycle in our modern world, but that's not how we like as
Mm,
women, for sure. We're more monthly, and there, we also have like we're cyclical beings. There's all
yeah.
kinds of cycles. And we've tended to operate like a summer all the time, same schedule, same food,
Right.
same routines, everything, where we shouldn't be. Our brain literally shuts down in the winter. It slows down. We need to rest more. We have more darkness in the winter. We should be getting more sleep in the winter. Naturally, we want less in the summer. And so for women, I mean, especially if anyone's in perimenopause and they're still cycling, there are very distinct phases of the menstrual cycle. Ovulation, more internal, more rest, needed at that time. There's we talked about the foods last time, but also just that there's more extroverted times. Women tend to be more extroverted, it's just the hormones that are present around ovulation. So that first part of the cycle, and then we go a little more internal. So you can sometimes plan your schedule like, oh, I don't really want to see people as much. I want to do more putter around home, take care of stuff, maybe have a friend over for tea
Mhm.
post like at the end of the cycle. Or you can, if you're postmenopausal, it seems to work with the moons as well, the moon as well. So new moon versus full
Oh,
moon. And so you can just track. Part of the work I do with women is cycle tracking. Like that can be weekly, monthly, yearly, but what does your body want? And when we honor, because we're not meant to be
right.
operating at the same way all the time, or
Yeah.
everything's changing all the
Well,
time.
usually I'm like, okay, we got to get up early. We got to do this. And then
Yeah.
she and I recently had this conversation, and I was like, honestly, like, we're both really needing to go in. So, like, you know what, just don't set your alarm that early. Like, and so, and we agreed that we high-fived each other. We're like, we're okay. We're going to do this together, because it just felt right for our bodies, like that was the phase we
Oh,
both.
and that's beautiful. And it's the self-honoring. We've been talking about that self-nourishment. And it's like, again, not the outside in, but the inside out. What is it that I need? Oh, I need more rest. I'm gonna, being able to cancel. That's one of the not canceling on people willy-nilly, but more like, oh, canceling and what is it? One of my clients, she's like, oh, when people cancel, cancellations are my love language, because she's like, when all of a sudden it frees up time, but where that sometimes we've overextended and it's like, oh, I'm going to reschedule respectfully and how to, honor what we need to, but also preemptively, not like you did today. Just, this is going to be big. I'm going to be driving. I'm going to put time in where I can just allow myself to recalibrate and settle and then come back out ready to go. So I think that's wisdom, where we come at it from prevented, like we come at it before, versus like, oh, I should have done that, but I didn't.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. No, and planning is everything. So this is a loaded call, Angela. My gosh, I love it. Let me see. Yeah, so I know this is Leona's language as well. So okay, any final words? We should probably wrap up, because I'd like to kind of try to keep this a little short, because I love when people watch these, and I know that if it's a little shorter, then people appreciate it more. We are going to do one more next Monday. So if you are watching this replay, then please know that next Monday we'll be talking again. And maybe Angela, you can share a little bit about next Monday's topic.
What are we talking about next Monday?
Midlife.
I'm gonna remember what we're talking about.
Living your radiant life, midlife.
Oh yeah. So just like what, this time of menopause really is special because of the idea of like this portal we're going through and something else is being called for. So how to listen, how to learn, how to tap your wisdom and step into, I call it your radiant life, as the, so yeah, so we'll talk a little bit about that and the blessings and the wisdom that can come through this stage of life.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. We'll see you next Monday. And again, if you are watching the replay of this, please connect back with the person who shared this video with you to learn more about whatever we talked about. They'll kind of fill you in on what's happening in our community, and certainly connect you back with Angela if you're interested more in the programs that she offers. And thank you, Leona, for joining us. And thank you, Angela, for sharing so openly with us and generously.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Thank you. And just I guess we could share, if anyone wants to get in touch, they can, yourradiantlife.ca is the way they can reach out to me.
Which I'll have that in the link on the YouTube. Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.